Okay, well, I guess we should probably start the episode. And
Cool.
I've got the headphones on this week, so hopefully we should not have a repeat of last week's Echo Cast, where it picked up. I'm pretty sure it recorded the sound coming in through the machine, and then it recorded it again on the camera's microphone. So it recorded everything my guest said twice.
Oh, yeah.
Which did not sound good. God, it is dark over there. Yeah.
It's very dark over here.
If I keep getting mostly American applicants, I am thinking of shifting the time of the recording to maybe Sunday morning here, which would be more like Saturday afternoon for you folks, but...
Oh, yeah. So it's what, 11 p.m. there now? Something like that?
Oh, God, no. It's 8.
It's 8 a.m.?
p.m.
8 p.m. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
I'm an hour out of my final shift, and I can just...
So, yeah, it's a 14-hour difference, I guess, or 16 hours, something like that?
Yep.
Oh.
So, we'll start off with the... Well, we may as well start after we hung up on Richard. And are you okay starting then?
I'm sorry, there's a little bit of static there for me when you were talking right there. I couldn't exactly hear you.
Is that a bit better? Move the mic a bit closer to the mouth? Okay. Yeah, so I figure we'll just start after we had to hang up on Richard. Does that sound okay with you guys?
That works for me.
Yeah. Sure.
Now, you sent your proper names through, but do you have a online handle you prefer to go by? Because your names aren't appearing on my screen, so if you prefer to go by that as opposed to...
Not for me. Albert is fine. That's my name.
Cool. Because Vex is obviously not my birth name, but a lot of people on the internet stuff, don't want to run the risk of people at work seeing and getting fired, and yeah.
No, I'm good.
That's cool. No problem then. So, first things first. Any interesting current affairs, news? It can be local, it can be global, it can be whatever.
Oh, jeez. Big thing here is there's a bunch of riots going on because of a court case that happened regarding a shooting this past summer. It was...
yeah, we've had that in the news over here.
Okay, good. So, yeah, that's big enough to cross the pond, I guess.
Assuming we're talking the same shooting.
Yeah, there's so many. One happening right now, unfortunately. Yeah, this big thing in Ferguson, and it's just it's taken over everywhere. The most intense thing that I saw was actually, oh geez, I forget where it was, but a group of protesters stood side by side across 2 lanes of, it was actually 8 lanes of traffic across a major highway, and just completely stopped all of the traffic, just standing there, standing in front of cars and creating this huge traffic jam. So I saw a video of that. That was, quiet and peaceful demonstration, but it caused a pretty big impact. Yeah. I'm sure the people in the cars were not very happy about that.
Cool.
I think another interesting point along with that is there was another shooting of similar circumstance, I suppose, in Cleveland, Ohio, where 2 police officers shot a kid who was brandishing apparently a airsoft gun without the orange tip on it, and so that happened, I think, the same week as the Ferguson trial was happening. So it kind of was, a additional one, still being investigated, I guess. I don't know what the result of that is, and I haven't kept up as much as most people on the Ferguson stuff. I hear about it occasionally, but I don't know enough about it.
We didn't have much happening. We've had some big storms around and some hot weather, and apparently 2 people got struck by lightning in Sydney yesterday.
Wow. Downtown?
No, I think there was in 2 different suburbs, but still.
Oh, wow.
How often do people get struck by lightning and 2 people in one city? Yeah.
That's... Yeah, I haven't heard of that. I can't remember the last time I heard of somebody getting struck by lightning. But there's a lot of tall buildings nearby that get struck before people.
Yeah, whereas Sydney, when you get into the suburbs, it's almost like little town areas. So not as many tall
Yeah.
buildings and
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah. I was in Sydney once years ago. It was 2011. I think that was the only time I was in Australia. But it was beautiful. I had a great time.
Cool. So did you do anything interesting? Anything in particular interesting while you were down here?
I did. I tried to do as much as I could because I figured it's hard to get back there. It's a long flight, but I did the Taronga Zoo, which I loved, and I signed up for a group tour, and I was the only one who showed up, so I got a private tour, so that was cool. That worked out real well. And then I did a tour of like some of the Blue Mountains. We did the Three Sisters, and we did the Jenolan Caves, which was also very cool. So like scrambling around in the middle of a mountain, that was pretty neat. Yeah, it was good. I was there for about a week.
Nice.
What kind of like special animals are there, like in particular at the zoo? Because whenever I go to the zoo, like they try and like show off like their one of a kind animal. I think like Cleveland has like some albino alligator, and other big cities have like one or two pandas. What was like the biggest like cool animal you saw down there?
I saw a lot of stuff that I had never even heard of. Like there's stuff in Australia that that we just don't have. I mean, so I had never seen an echidna in real life. I had never seen a platypus in real life. I got to feed a kookaburra, which was cool. What else was down there? Yeah, so there's a lot of interesting lizards and small squirrels and things like that.
Squirrels?
Yeah, emus. I actually had seen an emu at a zoo in London, which was really strange that I was there. But yeah, some of the lizards, some of the little squirrel and rodent type critters, I hadn't even heard of and seen, so that was pretty interesting. Spent a lot of time with some koalas. That was cool. Got some good pictures.
Cool.
Yeah, it was neat.
Oh, that's good to hear.
Yeah.
Never been up to Taronga myself, but it's supposed to be a pretty good zoo.
It was good. It was raining when I went, which was a shame. But it was nice. I like the way it's laid out.
Oh yeah, cool. I'm about 6 hours south of there, so I didn't really go up there that much. But yeah.
Oh wow, 6 hours south. Okay.
About midway between there and Melbourne. Cool.
Yeah, Australia's so big. It's if you're just even vaguely not familiar, just like, oh yeah, 6 hours away. That's totally not where I pictured it. As a, I guess, classical ignorant American of other geography of Australia. I guess I know some geography, but.
Well, I suppose...
Yeah. Just kind of funny.
God, I'm going to make a fool of myself if I say a quarter. Probably more like an eighth of the way around the country would be Melbourne to Sydney. So maybe a 16th of the way around the country. I don't know. I haven't actually
because there's not many roads through the middle, right? You have to go around everything.
It's pretty much a big, dead, empty nothing. Well, I'm not going to say that. I'll get in trouble. I did a lot of stuff there, but...
There's the squirrels, of course.
We got a bit of a desert in the middle.
Flying foxes and stuff like that.
Oh, flying foxes. Yeah. Oh, okay. I was wondering what you meant by squirrels. I couldn't think of any native ones. Yeah. You get the blue-tongued lizard?
I don't remember that. That sounds interesting.
No, it's just a lizard with blue.
I don't think I saw one of those. I saw this one lizard that. I saw this one thing with its head and its tail were shaped the same to avoid predators. That's pretty interesting. It looked, very much like a dinosaur, really like scaly and leathery looking skin. And a couple of like really small ones and some big ones, and I mean, it was really cool to see something totally different.
Whoa. We are getting some interesting audio stuff tonight. Just kidding. Were you hearing that too? Uh-oh. Oh, good. Okay, everything froze for a second. I thought I'd lost you.
Oh. Yeah, my call quality is going down also. Maybe I should turn off the video. I don't know what's going on. It's like yellow. Skype is showing yellow for me.
Hope it's not my end doing it. Oh well. By the end of the video, the audio is going to be all out of sync anyway, so a little bit of pausing.
I guess I should have recorded here too and sent you the file.
Oh no, the audio will record separately. That'll be fine.
Oh, got it.
And it will record an audio and a video together. It's just that the longer it goes on, the audio and the video will start to shift away from each other.
Got it.
My processor can't keep up. Like an old shitty computer.
How's the internet there now? My friends who had lived there for years said it was just awful or very expensive.
I have to look it up. I think I'm supposed to be theoretically on my current internet plan getting 12 megs a sec or so, but it is variable. Wow. It is very variable in what I actually get. If you're on the NBN, apparently that's good. But you see, they just re-announced where the schedule for rolling out the NBN, and the place I live isn't even on the schedule.
Oh no!
So yay!
And what does it cost you per month?
Broadband network, and I don't even have a clue how much that costs.
And how much does yours cost for the 12?
For mine, I'm on $80 a month, unlimited downloads.
Unlimited, okay. Yeah, I had a friend from Australia that had a similar... Oh, sorry.
So that's...
Lagged a little, so I was talking when you were talking. Sorry.
You go!
Oh, okay. I was just going to say I played some online video games with some friends in Australia, and they would always have to switch their internet to their secondary internet because of the download limits. So they're like, okay, give me a second. Let me switch from my work internet to my video game internet because I'm reaching my cap here, so I need to move around and do all sorts of stuff. I'm just like, yeah, that sounds like rough. And
yeah, I understand
they're paying
that
so much.
I understand that in America you pay for the speed. In Australia you pay for how much you can download per month.
Wow. Yeah.
If you go over I pay drop you back down the dial-up speed.
Oh yeah, I pay about $150 a month for 150 down and 65 up.
So you do go off that up there. Okay.
Yeah, I can go a little bit higher. If Google is launching some internet service in select cities that is like 900 down, 900 up, and it's all direct fiber optic. But they're only testing it in a few remote locations in the middle of the country.
Right, and I just saw an article about exactly that. I think they just opened up one more tiny city, so I'm just like, come on, why not here? Like, hurry up.
Yeah, right. So. Yeah. And where are you located?
I'm in Columbus, Ohio.
Oh, okay, cool. Very, very famous Halloween party there.
Yeah. There's all the Ohio party schools, There's a whole bunch. All like to claim they're the famous Halloween one, but.
Yeah. I never quite made it there, but I did go to a really fun sunrise party at. Apparently it was at Kenyon College. They did a sunrise party with it was like sunrise and champagne. So people would bring out bottles of champagne just before the sunrise and hang out. And it was very nice. Yeah, it was cool.
Sounds interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a good town.
That's a nice sword you've got in the background there. I noticed, Albert.
Oh yeah, I do have a little sword collection. I just have this one down here. Be a dork and have it in my room. Yep. One of those dorky guys with a little sword. It's not like battle ready, but it's like a metal baseball bat if you think about it.
Oh, because you so need a battle ready sword.
Yeah, because those. Yeah.
You never know when a riot's gonna break out.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep. Zombie apocalypse. I'm coming to Columbus.
You want blunt stuff for the zombies, you got to smash the skull. You want blunt objects on.
Yeah.
Oh, I suppose decapitation. Yeah.
Yeah, that works.
Well, it depends on what branch of zombies or what movie directors and type of zombies you're talking about. If they're the undead or infected, and quickly devolve into a super nerdy conversation about zombie types, of course. Yeah.
Actually, yeah. Not zombies, but speaking of things that have been branched off in types, was just watching a movie the other day where they actually went back to one of the classic types, but in a modern setting. Have any of you seen What We Do in the Shadows? I think it should be out in the US by now. No?
No.
It's this little New Zealand movie.
No, I'm not familiar with that.
It's filmed documentary style, and it just follows the daily lives of 4 vampires sharing a house in the middle of I think it's New Zealand's major city. And it's
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's really good. Like, they like to go out on the town and have a night to, try and pick up and bring home some dinner. But, they don't have reflections, so how do they know if they look any good? They kind of rely on each other.
Oh,
like
this
that.
sounds familiar.
They sketch each other, or they'll marionette the clothing down the hall, puppet style, to show how it looks when it moves.
Was that with Jermaine Clement?
Yes.
From yeah, that sounds very familiar. I don't think it was. I don't know if it made it out here. I'll have to look that up. That sounds great.
No.
I mean, I know it was going to America in general, but I don't know how wide a release it would have got. When it was in Australia, it didn't get the major cities. I was lucky enough to get snowed in Canberra one night and caught it there.
It may have just been in a box, like being FedExed somewhere. It's now technically in the country.
Well, I know it's coming out in Japan.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I think I heard him talk about it in a interview, and they showed a clip on some talk show or something like that.
Well, they got the first 6 minutes of it up to watch on YouTube.
Oh, cool.
The actual people who made it.
Oh, cool.
First 6 minutes of it online, so you can.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do appreciate the new clever takes on old tropes and stuff. So yeah, I might want to check this out.
Yeah, because they're not the shiny, glittery, Twilight. They are proper, old school.
Yeah.
Eat humans, burn in sunlight. Don't like crucifixes.
Nice. Have you actually read? A couple years ago, I just sat and read Bram Stoker's Dracula, the original. And
I tried once.
Yeah, it was a little different. I could
style.
Yeah, definitely with the letters and stuff like that.
And the report of the ship coming in was in.
Yes.
Wasn't that in the insurance company or something like that?
Yeah.
It was the report of it.
Yep.
Yeah, I was fascinated by the style, but I never finished the book.
Yeah, because I really liked the Francis Ford Coppola movie with Keanu and
yes.
Gary Oldman, I believe.
Gary Oldman, yes, he was great.
Who was I thinking? Who played Helsing?
Anthony
Silence of the
Hopkins.
Lamb guys? Yeah, Anthony Hopkins.
Yep, and I keep forgetting her name. The Edward Scissorhands girl, Winona Ryder was in it. That's right. Yeah, that was.
Sorry.
I'd say it was good.
My go-to direct. Oh God, we keep doing it. You go first. Or not? Okay, I'll go first. I must admit, my go-to Dracula movie is Dead and Loving It, the Mel Brooks version.
Yes.
Leslie Nielsen.
I'd only seen that a few times, but I love Leslie Nielsen and I love Peter McNichol. So that was...
Steve Renfield?
That's good.
Yeah.
Is that's that one, right?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, we may get on to the theme of the evening, which was major cities. I've got something for this one. New York City and Sydney can probably be best represented by Statue of Liberty for New York. Mm-hmm. And for Sydney, the Harbour Bridge or the Opera House would probably be people's go-to examples of what you think of when you think of the city. These things are iconic, not only of the cities, but in many cases you might consider them iconic of the country as well. That said, Statue of Liberty, while Americans paid to put it together, was actually a gift from the French. Sydney Harbour Bridge was built by an English company based off an American bridge, and the Sydney Opera House was a Dutch guy whose name I can never remember, but I have it on my phone ready to go. And I will not, there's no way in hell I'm pronouncing this right. John Utzon? J-O with a slash R-N-U-T-Z-O-N. I have no idea how to pronounce that. So I was just wondering if you could think of any other symbols of cities/countries that weren't exactly 100% of the city or country thereof.
Ooh.
Because most everyone knows the American.
I guess I have a
French, but
one that doesn't fall into those exact qualifications. But I was in London the other couple months ago, and there's the classic idea of London Bridge. But people get that confused with like the fancy-looking London Tower Bridge, like the cool-looking one. But London Bridge was the boring, like arch one that got moved to America.
Yes.
The one that got in the stone. So it's kind of like one of those. It's not. It's a iconic thing that people always talk about, but it's not what you think it is. So it's kind of sort of fall into that
like Big Ben
situation. Yeah, it's similar with Big Ben, the tour guide. Big Ben is the bell within the tower. So if you say, I'm looking at Big Ben, well, no, you're looking at the clock tower, the giant bell. So it's kind of like people just call stuff in
I had no
weird
idea
ways.
about that.
So
I always thought Big Ben was a clock.
yeah. And I forget. Yeah, there's the official word for the clock tower, but yeah, it's not Big Ben. That apparently annoys those classic, London historians. So they want to get under their nerves.
Can't annoy the historians.
Yeah.
I got in enough trouble the other week when I said the monarchy was only symbolic to a history person.
I think the U.S. built the Panama Canal. I don't know if Panama built the Panama Canal. I suspect they didn't. I'd have to look that one up to be sure.
I'm thinking it was, and they got the land from a treaty, and was it, what's the one Roosevelt guy who wore the khakis and Dallas Big Stick did? I think he did the treaty.
Teddy Roosevelt.
Teddy?
Yeah.
Well, I think he had something to do with the Panama Canal. I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
I'm trying to remember. I'm pretty sure.
And we ceded
referenced
the
an episode
land
of
back.
Archer.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have to look that one up. The other thing I was thinking of, there's probably a couple things, maybe not an icon, a physical icon, but like the East India Trading Company or like East India Tea Company and things like that the British set up. Well, I guess you can make a whole argument that the British set up a lot of Australia as well, but and I guess you could say that they set up a lot of America. But in terms of other icons, that's a really cool question. I'm not sure. There's probably a couple things that Japan did in Hong Kong. I'm sure there's a nice rich history of tourist attractions based on invasions and enslavement.
Yes.
If you're really religious, you could probably make a case about the pyramids.
Yeah.
Although I recently heard there was no evidence that somebody went back and said that there was no evidence that what became the Jewish people were ever in Israel, ever in Egypt. Like that, a bulk of that story is just false. There's no, or at least there's no historic records to back it up. So, and they found no evidence of anything to back it up. Yeah.
Oh, the religious people sort of love that one.
Yeah.
Yes, that's.
Yeah, I don't know if
be,
it was related to that. It was like maybe it was unrelated, but the people that worked on all of those iconic Egyptian structures were not the slaves, but they were the craftsmen of Egypt, and the slaves, made the food so those people could be like highly skilled stoneworkers, not slave stoneworkers.
Yes.
Didn't they find like sign-in or sheet or like ancient Egyptian I can't remember, it was like sign-in or sick leave or some sort of thing that basically slaves wouldn't have had the right to. I can't remember now.
Interesting.
It was. I heard this once, and I'm just trying to scratch at this little memory that's just sort of off to the side and won't bloody get in focus.
I think the evidence, maybe similar to that, the thing that slaves couldn't do, it was like they chiseled their, like the work groups, like they had nicknames into the different stones. So it's like, we are the, like Pharaoh Stoneworker Group number 5 or something.
I heard
like goofy nicknames and stuff, yeah.
That's cool.
And it was like, well, slaves wouldn't do that. They wouldn't take pride in their, awesome stone cutting, measurements and, stuff. So it was kind of like
caught graffitiing the stones. They'd have been
yeah.
punished.
Very cool. I can't think of any others though. I'm trying to think. Rome has a lot of stuff that was stolen from Egypt, and there's a lot of really nice pillars and things like that around town. And the Vatican has art from all over the place, but I know that they dismantled a lot of the Colosseum in Rome to build the Vatican. So a lot of the marble that was in the Colosseum is now in the Vatican. That's another interesting one.
Mm-hmm. I love learning about... I like learning about those things in history that aren't how they seemed in traditional history books. And for me, I'm a huge internet nerd. I always click around. I go to crack.com a lot, and they have a lot of goofy articles, but some of them are written with like a comedic guy plus an active guy, and they talk about things in history that weren't the way that they were portrayed. And speaking of like stealing like stuff from different places, apparently the Library of Alexandria in the main Alexandria, because he freaking named everything Alexandria, I think. It was a famous library because they had all the books back then. But they didn't have all the books because they loved knowledge. They loved it because it was worth money, like wealth. So they would steal the books or into any ships that came in to trade with at their port. They would take the original and make a crappy copy and give that back. And then so it was kind of like a... you think about, the fantastic Library of Alexandria being like this beacon of knowledge of the ancient world, but really they're there to like just take other people's books by force and give them crappy copies because it's just worth so much money and power to have all that stuff there. So it's kind of like were they just like a bunch of people who love books, or did they love power? It's kind of like a slightly different take on it.
Very cool.
Nice. Okay, I gotta think of another topic now. Or did you guys have any topics regarding to the major cities topic of this week?
I did write down a bunch of crazy stuff. Oh, yeah, go ahead. I was just talking about the library for a bit. Go right ahead. Sorry.
What I was thinking was I had this experience, having grown up in New York. I grew up right outside of New York, and we would come into the city almost every weekend. And I had this experience when I started traveling away from New York, and people saying like, "Oh yeah, check out the city," feeling like it was not a proper city because it was so much smaller compared to what I was used to in New York. And New York's not even really that large; it's just so dense. And the few cities I had been in that I couldn't walk across in a day, that were I feel like I couldn't see it all in a week trip, really felt like a city to me. And I was jaded by having that experience, So the few cities that really felt that could hold up were like London and Paris, Rome. Mexico City is, I think, the largest still in the world. It's amazing how jaded I can get just being in a place for so long. And then going to other places. I lived in Boston for a while, and you could walk across Boston within an hour, and feeling just how much smaller it was than New York, and taking some of the magic out of it to a certain extent, but then really helping me appreciate how much New York had to offer. So that was interesting.
Cool. Yeah. So you were about to say something else about the Library of Alexandria?
I was just saying that I didn't want to dominate the time, even though I was talking about that. Yeah, as a person from
please.
a
We
big
have still
city,
got like half an hour left.
I met a couple people from New York City, and when they heard that I was from like Ohio, they always pictured Ohio as just farmland. Whereas for me, I always lived in just the suburb, and I hadn't really, it didn't cross my mind that people see like, oh, Ohio equals all farms. Of course, now after I've traveled a fair bit around Ohio, that's most of the land, but man, like people just automatically assume a large portion of the people in Ohio are farmers, I guess, like from the people I've talked to, like just coming around. And it's just, yeah, as a little kid, I'd never seen a farm until, like a field trip to like the local historical farm thingy. So it's kind of a interesting thing.
Yeah, Columbus is a bit of a city, and definitely, and Cleveland is, I mean, the Cleveland Clinic is huge, and the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and major stadium there, and that's real deal stuff. I mean, even it's funny to think like even Chicago is within an hour's drive of, or at least an hour, probably maybe an hour, 2 hours, I don't know, but like Missouri and Indiana right there, and that's very farmland. A lot of that is very, very flat, and majority of it is farm. And then there's this major city right nearby. That's amazing.
And I guess I've done the same thing with when other people say they're from New York, and then they mean like upstate New York, and you start like,
yes.
Oh yes, Statue of Liberty, blah 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 blah, New York City, and they're like, no, I'm from the other, so it's kind of I guess both states have their flip side to what people say.
As a foreigner, it's very easy to forget that New York is actually a state as well as a city, because you think New York.
Yes. Yes, New York. Yeah, it's amazing because Manhattan, just like the main island, is only, I think, 22 square miles. And, I mean, the state could take you, 8 hours to drive across. So, and it is tons of farmland and all sorts of other stuff. Like Niagara Falls to New York City is like a, 9-hour drive or 8-hour drive. And it's all in the same state, so it's pretty amazing. And you don't have to go that far to be in farmland. I actually lived upstate, and it was, I could take a train into the city within it was like an hour and 15 minutes to get into Midtown Manhattan. And I lived 5 minutes from all sorts of farmland. And I would go to the farm to buy all my veggies. So yeah, it's really it's all right there.
Cool. Okay, onto my backup thing. I can marginally link this to major cities. One of these days, I want to relocate to Brisbane, which is the major city of the northern state of this continent.
Mm-hmm.
If you could move anywhere you wanted, where would it be? I want to go to Brisbane because I know absolutely zero people up there, and they actually have the NBN, and I reckon I could do quite happily in a little studio apartment in the middle of the city, get some little job in some little shop somewhere. I'd be perfectly fine with that.
Mm-hmm.
Live in a little town in the middle of nowhere, so everyone knows me here. Hate it.
I guess for me, I've been lucky enough to have traveled quite a bit in my life. I've been to quite a few just American cities, Boston, Baltimore, East Coast, West Coast, and I've been to Dubai once. That was pretty awesome. London and Shanghai and Taipei, and between all of those, I guess I think the coolest one, like the most like sci-fi city, was Dubai. 'Cause they're crazy
The
over there.
giant towers.
Yeah, but like from a practical standpoint, I'm probably wouldn't want to do that. I mean, it's just so expensive and extravagant all the time. They have like the big thing there is just like the biggest of everything, like the tallest tower, then like the tallest elevator in that tower, then the tallest observation deck in that tower, then across the street from that it's the biggest mall by square foot, and then they're building another mall that eclipses that mall, and then so it's like everything's the biggest, and like the giant indoor, like the biggest indoor ski slopes in the desert. So it's like, oh, it's like 90 degrees outside, better go into this giant mall, pop on a snow jacket and go skiing for an hour. Yep. So it's just like every like crazy thing you can imagine from like just a like an 80s like version like sci-fi people. It's just crazy over there.
Yeah, Dubai is very cool. I had a great time there as well.
Yeah.
First I've ever gone to Bali.
Oh, nice.
Only time I've ever left the country.
I've heard good things about Bali as well. For me, I think I'd want to live in. I love Rome a lot. It's a nice pace of life. It's laid back, and everybody was really nice and gorgeous. That helps. And I love having all the art just like right in town. The town itself is just fantastic, and it's a great place to travel from. I also love Florence, and it's very easy to get to those two, and very easy to get a flight or a train to so many other great places that I haven't explored as much. And more locally, I spent 3 years living in Maine, and my goal in the next couple of years is to buy a house there and spend a couple of weeks there and a couple of weeks back here, and rent it out during the touristy seasons. And I think that'd be nice.
Cool. Yeah, I live in a little Turo town area. Apparently my unit, I can rent it for about... If I was to rent it tourist time, I could probably rent it for about twice as much a day than I can per week outside of tourist time.
Wow.
Which is just freaking ridiculous.
And what's the draw for the tourists there?
Fuck it if I know. I ask them when they come through work, oh, what are you going to do while you're up here? Nothing. They're just going to lie around and do nothing for 2 weeks. So I guess it's beaches and bushwalking.
Beaches, yeah. I just started listing my place on Airbnb, and I mean, I'm not in a fancy town per se. I'm just I'm close to the city. I'm a 10-minute walk to a train into Manhattan. And I was like, whatever, I'll list it and see what happens. And I've had a bunch of people come through in the first, it's only been 2 months, but I've had all sorts of people come through. And, I got the inspiration from I stayed in LA for a couple nights with a guy who rented out his bedroom, and he slept on the couch. And I said, "Are you sure about this? This is is this weird for you?" And he said he's been doing it for 2 years, and he's made money. And so I started doing it, and for a bulk of October, I rented out the whole place, and the whole time I paid almost all my rent. So that was really cool. So it's an option.
I don't know if I could do a flatmate scenario thing. I don't get on well with anybody over a certain amount of time. I just starting to get all sort of around people.
Most people are only staying
so that's why this podcast is 1 hour.
I had a lot of people.
An hour is just the amount of time they've taken so far. I didn't really have a locked-in time for this is how long it should take. I had an idea for 3 segments, a current affairs segment, a theme segment, and then if I actually got people watching and commenting on the YouTube videos, a YouTube comment segment.
Nice.
I've had 1 comment so far, not including the replies from the people who are actually on the show, so that got addressed last week, so
Nice. a friend of mine started a show on YouTube that was, this was a couple of years ago, but he said, post in the comments a video or a channel that has less than 10,000 subscribers that you think should have more. And then he went back and did videos about those, the ones that got the most, upvotes. And
he reviewed them.
And he kind of reviewed them. He showed them to people who were, other people who had some sway in a similar genre, right? So some musicians, he would play it. He made a video showing a musician's video to another musician he knew so that they could comment on it in real time. And some of them have blown up and in really cool ways and done some really interesting things. And it helped all their followership, which was really neat. I loved that idea. I thought that was just very, very internet-y and cool.
Cool.
Yeah. That's neat.
I mean, putting aside from the fact that you got to put the podcast on the internet to begin with, I couldn't have made this without access to message boards to look for hosts and other people. I mean, I didn't have much of a network locally, so I mean, I couldn't have done that without done anything like this without a way to reach out to random strangers on message boards.
No, that's a great way to do it, and because you get all sorts of different. You get all sorts of different things, but then you see how much the same a lot of people are too.
I get that at work. I'm a check-in operator.
Okay.
And a customer comes up and they got this grin, and I know, oh god, they're going to say one of 3 or 4 stupid things, and they're going to think it's hilarious.
Something about Crocodile Dundee.
No. Oh, it didn't scan. It must be free.
Yes. Oh, yes.
I want to stab you.
And they think they made it up, right? Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, I think
there's
in every industry.
Yeah.
I used to work at doing environmental drilling and environmental sampling. And so you'd be at a gas station installing just making like a foot hole, like 12 feet down to just sample the soil. And they're like, hey, you find any oil down there? I'm like, no, we're at a gas station. I'm not drilling for oil at a gas station. And yeah, that probably heard that maybe 200 times in my life. And another one, it's you drop sampling tubes down into different holes with like string. So you're like just fooling around with just your basic string and like looking down into a hole, and people walk by and be like, hey, you catch any fish down there? I'm like, no. Like, ha ha ha, you funny rascal, you. And then, I mean, yeah, I've heard that probably 300 times, and that's pretty ubiquitous, I guess, across the entire environmental industry. Like, it's all like a big in-joke, like drilling for oil or finding fish, and yeah, so.
Yeah, it's like dad jokes. It's all these things you just see all the time. I feel bad for waiters and waitresses. They probably get a lot of that stuff, It's got to be tough. Or, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Or people carrying around flowers and someone comes up to him and says, oh, you shouldn't have, it's for me. And, yeah, we need some new jokes. I think that would be a good Reddit sub, like, create a new joke for someone who's heard the same thing over and over and over again.
Yeah. But then it could be a like paradox, whereas you're trying to tell someone a new joke, they've heard that one already, so now you're the guy with the old joke, just by trying to find a new joke.
Exactly. Wow. So you're not doing environmental drilling stuff now, or you're?
No, formerly. Now I quit my job. I'm just kind of being a bum. And
nice.
One of the things I was looking at was starting a podcast, and that's why I was clicking on the podcast forum on Reddit. And then I saw this post.
Nice.
Thus I find myself to be here. So.
And what do you want your podcast to be about?
Just like a general video game nerd, general type podcast, and it's going to be interesting because there is, of course, a lot of stiff competition in that genre, of course. So we're trying to figure out a way to just do it for fun, and then try not to make it a humongous time sink because I have other like weird pursuits that I do. So,
Well, what are you going to focus on? Any particular style of games, like RPGs versus first-person shooters? Versus...
Personally, I kind of cross all genres. I do a lot of gaming across the board. For example, with this topic of major cities, I have just like a notepad open, and I had a couple ideas of like different stuff to talk about with major cities, and it quickly devolved into like how major cities were depicted in video games. So like my brain is constantly just in like video game analyze mode. Yeah. So it was going to be like cross genre, like analysis of new and old and all sorts of stuff like that. And
have you watched Felicia Day's videos where she plays retro games with her brother?
I used to follow her stuff back when she did her web show, The Guild, because I played World of Warcraft like a crazy person also, and so and I watched some of her stuff for a couple months, and I've just kind of fallen off.
Yeah, she has this whole series where it's just her and her brother. It's videos of them playing through old school games, and they just look like they're having so much fun, laughing at the bad graphics, or just being silly together. And I just, even a long one, I've had, to remember all these old games that I had. I think one of the recent videos was Power Stone, and I hadn't played that for years. That was like a Dreamcast game I used to love. And played old Nintendo games and stuff like that, and it was a good flashback to see the game again, and then to see them get messed up and stuck in the places I got stuck, and just laugh at each other.
Yeah, exactly.
That's good.
Because there's so many places that do cover games, but like a game that's been out for 2 years, it's just kind of off people's radars on the new, but people are still buying those older games, like a game from 3 years ago, and they're like, oh, this is a cool experience. Like, who is talking about this right now? Well, almost no one, because everyone's just focused on the new and the next thing and the next thing. So it's like, well, maybe you can provide some content like, oh, here's this cool thing. It was super cool 3 years ago, but like, where does it sit now in the, if you buy it in the bargain bin on Black Friday, like, who can you talk to about that experience,
That reminds me of a story. Ubisoft recently released Assassin's Creed, which I discussed in the other episode with the other hosts, is apparently horribly broken. But apparently its sales were outsold by I can't remember when the game came out, a PC port of like a 5 or 6 year old PS3 game. Probably not 5 or 6 years old, but yeah, a good couple of year old PS3 game had just made its PC port, and it smashed Assassin's Creed's newest game in the sales.
Wow.
Pretty much because word got around that Assassin's Creed was broken as hell, but still.
Yeah. There was an interesting parallel in the music world. I guess it was last year, Beyonce was doing this big push about a new album coming out, and her picture was everywhere. It was on buses and billboards, and it was just everywhere. And it sold really well, but then without warning, David Bowie came out with a new album. Like, nobody knew about it. There was no press. There was no news about it, and it outsold Beyonce. He makes music.
I knew he used to make music. I just hadn't heard of anything of his since. What was he?
I thought he just played himself 90s? In other weird versions of movies. Yeah.
Yeah, no, he did a thing. He's got a bunch of albums out. Yeah. Yeah, he was on tour with 9 Inch Nails for a while. They did a song together. That was a bunch of years ago. It was like in the 90s, and then he's had 4 or 5 albums since then. So that was really interesting that it was unpublicized, and he I think he outsold her. Pretty sure that's the case.
Cool. Actually, if I can link to that
it's fun.
Indirectly. A couple of years ago, a year or two ago, I was down in Melbourne, and all the buses and all the trams had all the advertisements for the big new GTA 5 that was coming out. Now, recently they've just released the Xbox One PS4 ports for this game. Recently, Target has yanked it off the shelves for some of the violence against women or something. And My question is, where were these complaints when the game originally came out 2 or 3 years ago on the original console?
Did they sell it for those consoles?
It was sold for the PS.
Yes.
It originally came out PS3, Xbox 360.
Got it.
And it's only... They've just released the... Have they released, or are they about to release the PC port? One or the other. And the Xbox One and PS4 ports. With, graphical upgrades and that. But most of the content, I'm pretty sure, is going to be the same. So, where were these complaints, when the original came out?
I'm sure the complaints came from some customers, and if they got loud enough, that's when they would react. Because they've sold other games rated M in the past, right?
We've actually got an R rating down here now.
Oh, is that what it is?
Ever, but we finally got an R rating. And even still, our games get censored. Did you hear about the South Park one?
No.
Right, yep. I heard all about that.
You heard about the crying koala?
Crying koala? I did not hear about this.
So...
The anal probe scene.
Let me... I guess I can tell.
You can tell if you want.
There's a scene in the game. It's the South Park RPG, where, there's the anal probe and different segments of missions like that. So instead of showing the scene, they put up, I believe, a crying koala, and then using very flowery language, describe what happens in the scene, and then says, because blah, blah, the government does not allow us to show, this gratuitous anal probing scene is now, replaced by this crying koala, blah, 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 for these reasons. So it's kind of like a, they got, they're able to get the joke in.
I think
way. And the censorship laws.
Statue. I read that. I haven't played the European version. Another one was Saints Row 4 got censored. They took out Shauny's loyalty mission because drugs gave superpowers.
Wow. So somebody at the government is charged with playing video games all day and deciding what gets censored.
But the thing is, if we were still back on the M rating thing, sure, I get some things have to be censored for the M. We actually have an R rating now. We are allowed to have big people topics in games. Or at least the little people topics.
I always liked that, I'm not so sure about what they do in Australia, but in England, they censor violence more than sex, and we're the opposite. I always liked that version a little bit better because, I don't know, it seemed a little bit more what you'd want your kids to see,
It's much better telling them that getting it off of somebody is probably a far healthier option than beating the crap out of them.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Kids one way or another.
The other thing that's interesting about censorship that I noticed, another corollary to England, you're not allowed to do political campaigns, which was one thing which I liked, and you're not allowed to. They don't do any. I don't think they do any medical advertisements. There's a lot of ads here for, check out this new drug, and you should ask your doctor if this is right for you. And it used to be that the doctors told you what you needed, and now it's people coming in saying, I saw this TV commercial, I need this new drug. And the only thing that got inserted into those ads in terms of, if you could call it censorship, was they're forced to disclose all the side effects. And so 2/3 of the ad is, don't take this if you take all these other things, if you're in this state, and it may cause all these other things. And the first third and the last 2 seconds are, this is how much better my life is. But the whole middle section is it may cause you to grow a third arm and cause anal bleeding and cause either forget your name. And you should ask your doctor if it's right for you. And
so my mind just went straight to the old Robin Williams skit where he's looking at the medicines he's on and may cause anal leakage. Yep,
exactly.
Get out of the pool, Ted.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And it's like, to call them side effects is such a scam, because I didn't have that when I wasn't taking that medication. It's a direct effect, and and it's very strange. So in terms of censorship, like I never understood that, but there's so much money in that industry that they're just everywhere now. It's ridiculous.
The only medical ads we get down here are pretty much, hay fever medications, Panadol, your generic stuff you can just
something you can buy without a prescription.
But you don't tend to get the really more specific stuff on the TV that I've seen.
Yeah, Viagra and stuff like that. Yeah. It's very, very strange.
Indirectly, we once had a show called like the world's best ads or something like that. And you just get these weird ads from overseas. Like there was one where this guy took Viagra and he was jumping on the bed and he head-butted the ceiling fan or something like that. And I don't remember how that was supposed to sell the drug, but...
Yes, lots of good Japanese ads for random products.
Yeah, in Japan, it's always an animated mascot. It's like they're still in the mascot age of sugary cereals, but this one is like, I don't know, like a car or something, or a hamburger, but there's like some crazy wacky card character trying to sell it to you. And I think I saw a picture. I was in the Tokyo airport, I think, and just the safety things for maybe escalators or just moving walkways. It's like, make sure to have your hand, and watch where you're going. It was like this cartoon character, telling you to be safe, on the escalator. Whereas in America it's just that stick figure with a hand. And it's like kids must be with their parents, but it's just like this cartoon version of that. I was just like,
That's
man,
great.
why is everything a cartoon here?
Kids pay attention to cartoons.
Yeah, I guess.
I show a kid a stick figure, they go, eh.
Yeah, I saw some. I can't remember what it was. Like a USB powered lighter or something. That just made no sense. And then the ad was super chaotic, crazy, pastel-y. It looked like a Power Rangers plus weird anime. And it was like a 2-minute long ad for some USB lighter or something like that. Just totally weird.
Cigarette lighter?
Yeah, but it was powered by USB for some reason. Like it lit up or something like that in different colors, and you had to charge it. Or maybe it was a USB storage thing, something like that. My Japanese is pretty bad, so I couldn't quite tell. But it was very colorful and fun. And it looked like a whole TV show, but it was just an ad for this lighter.
Cool. So, did you have any... Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
So, you said you had some topics that major cities had devolved into in video games.
Oh, yes, of course. I can start rambling on if you need me to about video games. But my more interesting ones, I guess, for cities was the difference between American cities and, of course, with the imperial measuring system versus metric. And so in my travels, I've noticed that the scale of certain things is slightly different, like the curves on roads or the height of steps, because here it's like, oh yeah, we'll just make that 4 inches, whereas of course it'd be 8 centimeters. Everything feels slightly different. Like handrails feel different, and the heights of different things, and examining just the margins on the how thick materials are, like tables and chairs, they're all set to centimeters. So I just thought that was an interesting difference that you don't really notice until you start examining things, just how the building blocks of a city in a foreign, or stuff in a foreign city.
Sure.
Just even the tiles on the bathroom, they weren't quarter inches, they were centimeters. And if you guys had any experiences seeing that throughout your travels or anything.
The only funny design thing I noticed in any bathrooms on my travel was the wall sort of did a rectangular in thing right in front of the toilet seat, so you couldn't actually sit down without your knee in the wall. or you had
Terrible.
to sit on the bathroom sideways. Yeah, one or the other.
Oh,
But I haven't really travelled to that many places, and pretty much all of Australia uses the centimetres, and
yeah.
Right.
about the only thing we use
Oh, that's
feet
awful.
is for people measuring.
I was trying to think of differences between like a video game and real life. I'm trying to think of something like I've seen some buildings, a couple things that were based on New York. There was a Grand Theft Auto, I think, that was based on New York to a certain extent, and there were some buildings that looked very familiar. A couple iconic ones, randomly iconic, maybe that was it. Yeah, there was a bank that just like stood out. There was a Citibank building that was also a bank in the game that's in Queens. I'm trying to think of other ones that really like felt like it was that city.
Pretty sure Prototype was set in New York.
Yep.
Oh,
All the Spider-Man games where you swing around. It's also a scale
sure,
version of New York. Yep.
sure,
And,
yeah.
Yeah, there's LA Noir, where you play a detective in LA. It's also
That's
a
right.
scaled version. You have all the like the old school Chinese cinema, those like LA landmarks and stuff around there that you can look at. And
That's
of course,
right.
Assassin's Creed is famous for having being semi-broken now and then, but
Yeah.
having meticulously recreated historical landmarks in their games.
Yes.
Did you hear
Yes.
about the news report? This was months, maybe a couple of years ago now, and they had the big screen in the background showing a scene of the city that they were doing the news article on. And what they managed to do was get the picture from the Assassin's Creed 1, I think. So, right city, several centuries out of date.
That's awesome. I love that.
They hadn't realized they put it up there, apparently.
Oh, I'm sure that was some intern who was like, "Hey, let's use this."
Okay, internet, search, this city.
Yeah.
That'll do.
There was another case like that. I believe it was North Korea made a video showing how they're going to kick America's butt. And in the background, it was a CGI display from a game called Call of Duty Modern Warfare, where in the game, New York City's under attack. And so they just took that CGI from that scene in the game trailer into the background. And then, like Kim Jong-il and stuff were talking. So then it's just like, it's like, well, video explosions are hard to render, so we'll just copy the explosions for New York City from this video game and, make it into our official state propaganda video. And people are like, wait, I've seen these pixels before. Isn't this the video game I'm playing? So it's another case of that.
I saw something about that with the second Transformer movie that I guess Michael Bay had taken a full scene from the movie he did with...
it's the Island.
The Island, yes.
Yep.
Oh no, I've lost your pictures.
Oh no, an error occurred.
Disappeared on my screen also. Yep.
Oh well.
Interesting. But yeah, that was cool. He took like 5 minutes of the island, and it was a whole chase scene, and then just added robots, and
Why
it
won't you let me
was.
turn video call back on? Sorry, anybody watching at home, at least you won't see the horrible lip sync at this stage.
So yeah, along that topic, to get into all my the paragraph of video game notes I wanted to talk about. Yeah, there's Assassin's Creed where you can explore, different condensed versions of historical places, Rome, Istanbul, and all sorts of places. And then there's Call of Duty where you can destroy historical or, famous places like you've blown up the Eiffel Tower in Paris and New York City and all sorts of stuff. And then there's been other games I've played as a little kid that it's less about just gratuitous explosions and just like older strategy games like Civilization and
Sure.
old historical learning games where just as a little kid, like you're like 8, 9 years old and you start to learn about just recognizing the names of these different cities and understanding where they kind of are in like geography. Like you play like a medieval game and you start to understand where different, hamlets are in like the War of the Roses, or you're playing like a Greek game, so you start to understand Athens, Sparta, and Persia. And so I thought, for me personally, because I, again, play way too many video games than anyone should, I learned so much about history and cities and how cities are set up and stuff like that just through video games. And then growing up, when I went to like London and they're talking about like, oh, these streets are really long and wide because the Romans made these streets. I'm like, oh yes, I do recall upgrading my streets in that Roman video game I was playing 5 years ago. So it all like links in crazy, unexpected ways, So I'm a big proponent.
I think my version of that, good call. My version of that was probably Carmen Sandiego, which was, it actually shipped with this printed almanac, and it would just be clues like this city has XYZ, and I had to look it up.
You have to. I mean, back in school, we pretty much played Carmen Sandiego with an encyclopedia or an atlas next to us. If we didn't have the book, it would be pretty much all guesswork. Oh, I think I'm getting the video back.
I had to turn it back on. Yeah, there was a...
Yeah, let me hit the button and see if I'm back. Huh? It'll work.
Oh.
Yay!
Hey, I'm back!
I've got a spinning wheel under your nostril, so it looks like something's trying to crawl up your nose. There you go. Now I see. Yay!
Yeah, Carmen Sandiego. I mean, some of that stuff is obscure, I reckon.
Yeah.
At least, it was obscure for a 10-year-old.
Yeah. But
the flag
you learned
on the
it,
car
which is
had
good.
the colors such and such.
Yeah. I learned it, and I learned places I wanted to go that I'd never heard of, which was really cool. And, so it was good in that educational sense. Edutainment, right? It was educational and entertainment. And, there was a whole stack of those games, and the TV show even. I mean, there were
cartoon series.
There was a cartoon, and there was a game show version too. That's the one I remember most. It was very strange. It was very difficult, and kids would just whip through it. I don't know how they were so good at it, but yeah, it was like it was just like the game, but it was a game show. It's very strange.
Cool. Trying to think of some other things that you've covered most. I mean, Carmen Sandiego would have been my go-to one for that.
Yeah.
Civilization, I remember laughing, thinking, oh, so Rome is right next to London. Yes, that makes sense, because those damn Brits.
Gandhi is dropping a nuke on me.
I never got to the Gandhi nuke part. Never got to that. I understand it's because his hostility rating is supposed to be set at minimal, but after he gets a certain technology, it goes down below minimal, making it maximal. Or something like that.
Yeah, I read that article. That was funny.
I have to ask, that figure in the poster behind you, I can see his lower body. I'm just wondering who it was.
Can you guess what it is? It's a Mandalorian bounty hunter from a certain series. Boba Fett.
Yes. I can only see his legs. He looks kind of familiar, but...
Well, of course, you would know that he has dart launchers in the size of his knee pads that he can shoot poisonous darts out at people, so...
and hit them in the knees, hopefully.
And just...
Yeah. Yeah, there you go, Boba Fett.
Boba.
Yep.
Speaking of, have you seen the new Star Wars trailer?
Oh yeah.
I've avoided it. I'm waiting to see. I'm waiting to see it all at once. But someone did make an interesting comment the other day that there's a new Star Wars trailer. There's a Jurassic Jurassic Park trailer and there's a
That looks like
Terminator
it could be good.
trailer.
Terminator.
It's like, it's like, and then AC/DC came out with a new album. They're like, is it the 1994? Like, what's going on?
I must admit, I did like the look of the Jurassic Park trailer. Trained attack velociraptors. Yes.
It's going to be interesting for sure. Yeah, and I'm sure it'll look great on screen. That's the main thing. It'll be eye candy.
Apparently it's copying some flack though, because apparently now the modern science idea is that dinosaurs were feathered. But they haven't made their dinosaurs feathered. Which they can't really do without completely saying the first 3 Jurassic Parks were BS.
Well, the big issue is that now if a kid comes up to a dinosaur, he won't know that it's really a dinosaur because it will have feathers and he'll be in danger.
Yes. And I just lost audio completely for a second there.
Oh, no.
Oh, you're back!
I was saying that...
Yeah, the audio dropped for me.
I was saying that it's a terrible disturbance to the kids who won't know a real dinosaur when they see one because they'll think that it's not a real dinosaur because it has feathers on it. And they've been taught that they don't have feathers. So we have to really protect it. It's a child safety issue, really. They should put some feathers on this.
I get wanting to be accurate, but I also get that you can't contradict your previous movies unless you're completely rebooting a series.
Yeah.
It's just, you're going to piss off the fans something severe if you do that. I mean, you're going to piss off the fans one way or another making a sequel, but still.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that gets me mad is around movies is remaking, just tweaking the original. Like the E.T. changes they did, and then the original trilogy of Star Wars edits they did, and
where they
things like that.
Altered it so Han never shot at all. He shifted his head a fraction of an inch. The laser rebounded and hit the guy across the table from him.
Oh, I didn't even notice that. But they added.
I think he's still supposed to shoot, though. I think he's still supposed to shoot.
Oh, was he?
I don't think it's a rebound.
I heard he dodged the first shot.
Yeah, he does dodge, but I don't think it rebounds though.
But they did some stuff like they added a scene with him and Jabba the Hutt, and Jabba the Hutt looked really weird. They changed some of the music at the end of. I really liked the song, the Ewok song at the end of Jedi, and they changed that, and then they added
and they added
in young Anakin,
It's instead of old Anakin.
Yeah.
Ghost scene.
It's weird. Just weird.
Yeah, Star Wars.
And
that's
E.T.
really
they
a
added.
big topic.
Yeah. That's a big topic.
Oh, yeah, with E.T. and stuff. I was just... the latency of the audio screwed me up. With Star Wars, the other big thing that happened was when they erased all the extended universe stuff that no longer counts, So
apparently it's like legends. It's mythology.
There's different tiers of how important it is to the universe, but it's only the 3 movies, or the 3 originals, the 3 prequels, the current cartoon, and then the new stuff. So even the cartoons that they had like last year don't count. All the books don't count.
So the old
Ewok
movie doesn't count?
No, I believe that one's out. That holiday
Aww.
adventure.
I love that movie.
Yeah.
So I had heard.
Crash and,
I never read the books, but I had heard that in the books, and again, I didn't see the trailer for the new one, but I heard in the books that Luke turns to the dark side for 1 or 2 books and is there for a while, and then Leia gets him out of it or something like that.
Yeah, on the order of crazy lore universes I know about, Star Wars is definitely on there. Unfortunately, I've only read maybe 30 out of the 300 books, and Luke does a bunch of weird, goofy stuff. And it's funny, I was actually having this conversation with my friend the other day. So when Luke gets his hand cut off, you think that hand the hand's off. That's just part of the story. But there's part of a book, in which they find that hand and they clone Luke, and then there's a whole sub-series of different clones. Like the Emperor gets cloned, and they kill him, and then he goes into another clone body. And I think they kill him again, and then they kill all the clones. And then there's another moment, which is equally hilarious, where, Darth Vader gets his hand cut off by Luke. And you think, okay, yeah, the hand's off, and we'll just focus on Darth Vader. But no, there's a book called The Glove of Vader, where they find that glove, and because he's so evil, it's imbued with evil force powers. So then there's a whole story with, how's there a book written about the glove of the guy? So yeah, that's how ridiculous the books get quickly. It's just like, well, this thing happened, and so now that's a story, Quickly, it's like, okay, Han Solo's shoe has a story now or something, so...
They're just grasping at anything they can, huh?
Yeah.
Wow.
And yeah, some of them were good, and some of them were ridiculous stories. So, every character in the Mos Eisley scene, the bar in the original New Hope, has a backstory. If you freeze frame it, I'll just sit here and talk for 45 minutes about, that guy in the background doing this crazy thing, and that's why he's here, and he's talking to Han Solo about that right before they show up. Isn't that interesting?
Man.
And then it's just
I prefer the Robot Chicken backstory.
Yeah.
Where the green guy who gets killed by Obi-Wan early on is actually just an architect. And they go to the bar, and he's made bullshit translation.
Well, that's Ponda Baba is the guy who gets his arm cut off. And the guy with the weird nose, that's Dr. Evanstein. And he is, when he says to Luke, I did death sentence on 9 systems, that's because he's a corrupt doctor that was doing crazy Frankenstein-esque experiments on other planets. So there you go for your...
He was doing
human
centipede stuff on Tatooine.
Yeah, exactly. So
that's
Jawas.
The thing about him being an architect was from an episode of Robot Chicken. Yeah.
Yep.
I love that. Yep. That was really smart. That he was just having a bad day. His friend was saying that he was saying all this mean stuff, but he wasn't. It was brilliant.
Yes. Oh, can I buy you a drink? My friend doesn't like you. Yeah, and then his whole life goes to hell because of the loss of his hand. Well, we've gone pretty well off topic there, and the audio quality is getting a bit funny again, so I think it might be a good time to call it a night. Or morning, in your case.
Or morning.
Thank you very much for being on. I'll try and have this episode up by, tomorrow morning my time. It takes a while to upload it to Google, and I've got to trim off the beginning, so...
And it will be YouTube exclusive, I guess? I'll just start sending people my...
I don't actually have a site or anything.
Okay. Cool.
So, yeah, I'll be putting it up on YouTube, and it'll be on the playlist. I'll send you guys a link to it when it goes up through the...
Okay, thanks.
Cool.
Very cool.
Thanks for
Let us know if you're coming to the States.
Thank you.
No time soon. I have no money. Have a nice one.
Okay, have a good one.
Bye.
All right. Bye.